I'm thinking, how many of us are gonna Google total weeks of number?
We're running.
Okay, I will call this meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of the Glendale-River Hills School Board on August 6, 2025. I'll take roll call. Chris Robinson here. Katie Avalos here. Karen Cronwell
Here.
Carla Pennington Cross is here, and Danielle Bailey will be a little bit late. At this time, if you wish, you may stand and join in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, moving on to item 1D, agenda approval.
I move to approve the agenda, except moving the equity committee before the whole child growth and success things. Is that where you want it?
Yes.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
I
All right, agenda is approved. Moving on to approval of board meeting minutes from July 23rd.
I move to approve the July 23rd meeting minutes as presented.
second.
I would like to propose a couple edits, a little technical, but just trying to be, and you all have to tell me if I remember this right. On item 3A, the reading instructional goals. As I recall, the motion was made, it was not approved, but instead there was then a motion to amend, and then the amended motion was approved, right?
That is right.
So I would delete all in favor at 6:25. There was a motion and a second, and then I would say a motion to amend was made by Ms. Bailey to approve, and then all of that. And then I would say motion to amend, all voted in favor, then the amended motion was approved. Does that make sense? So there were two motions that passed. One was the motion to amend, and then was the amended motion. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, trying to be Robert's rulesy. And then on B for strategic plan goals, if everyone's okay with it, I would add, where it says motion to adopt and approve all that as attached to this agenda item and edited as discussed, because there were some edits. Does that work? Danielle Bailey is in the house. All board members are present. So those are the edits I suggest. Anyone else? All right, so there's a motion to approve the board meeting minutes for July 23rd, 2025. With suggested edits by Carla to reflect what was discussed at that meeting. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Just abstain. Sorry, I don't know. One abstention by Ms. Bailey. She was not here for the session. All right. Motion carries. Onto the meeting grounding. Think no one agreed to do the grounding, right? Or did you?
No, just
No. So this is a very simple, straightforward grounding. I've been thinking, there's a member of my family who's having a big mental health crisis, and we've been talking a lot about behavior and humanity and all those things. And it reminded me about how often we talk about behavior. We look at data, we look at ticks about who people are, and that's always bothered me. It's always a balance, right? We do need to think about behavior, but I like to remember that we're talking about human beings. So I've been reading a little Ross Green, who grounds his work in the idea that kids do well if they can, not if they want. And can is different than want, because want leads us to dog training and behavior mod techniques and sticker charts and bells and whistles and carrots and sticks, whereas can leads us to thinking about whole children, consistent with our strategic plan, and where things come from and why people act the way we do. And I think that's also true for school boards and staff. We also do well when we can, not just when we want. And so I think that's a really important compass to guide our work. And I just wanted to read, because I loved these quotes, a couple quotes from Ross Green. One that I love is about this issue of behaviors. Everybody is talking about the behavior, but behaviors float downstream to us. We need to paddle upstream. The problems that are causing the behaviors, that's what's waiting for us. It's a really neat idea. It's an equity idea, right? To look behind what's on the surface and see what drives people. So I love that. And then the second quote that I love is simply this: my advice to educators is collaborate with parents. They know a lot about their kids. So that's my thought as we do this work. I remember something that Chris brought up a few meetings ago as well. We're talking about human beings, individuals, and even as we do this sort of big work, it's good to remember that. Okay, moving on to public comments. At this time, members of the public may speak if they wish on non-agenda items. Back today. Anyone online?
We have 3 people online, nothing in the chat.
All right, moving on to item 3A, review of nursing services.
We were gonna do equity.
Oh, sorry, that's right. Right, immediately forgot. Citizen Advisory Committee on Equity. All right. I believe we have a member of the IC here.
Jenny Dawn's online. By any chance? I know she was gonna try to join in that way.
Yes.
She is. Can you just chat with her and just make sure, are you going to speak or?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
And I can, if Jenny wants to weigh in, I guess just.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll
Or
put
no.
The signal in that. How about that?
Would you like to join us
Sure.
around?
Join us.
Jenny, I'm gonna allow you to talk. So you can chime in when you need to.
And if you could just state your name.
And I have my phone out, obviously, for the slides. Yes, my name is Javier Alanis. And just jump in, and am I presenting the slides here?
Your
Or-
slides.
Oh, yes, sorry, I did not know that y'all didn't have them.
Yeah, we have slides, but we didn't
Works for me, I can.
we didn't finish them in
Yeah.
time, which is why I didn't.
Let's see how quickly we can do this. All right, I was able to send it real quick.
All right, well, let's see how quickly I can receive it.
In the meantime, I can present a little bit about who I am in my role. So I am a parent
Why don't you
of
just, yeah.
3 kids, 2 of whom are currently at Glen Hills, all 3 of whom attended Glen Hills and Parkway. I've been on the equity committee in both of its iterations, which we'll talk a little bit about in the slides. So since 2021, somewhere in there, I think. Yeah, since its inception, not exactly sure when that was, but Carla and Danielle obviously were instrumental in yeah, somewhere in there. And I am currently serving with Jenny as co-facilitators or co-chairs of the committee.
Jenny Doss.
Yes, Jenny Doss, thank you. And here's our slide deck for presentation today. So I'm here to both to give you all insight into the equity committee, kind of our function, the history, and kind of our purpose today. So we will jump to the first slide is about our function. I know for the just quick point of order, so there's obviously bullets listed up on the screen. Is it important and useful for me to essentially read through those so those are documented for the record or no?
No.
Not if we can post the presentation.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then I won't read word for word what's up there. I'll just kind of give the cliff notes. So we are a district supported group made up of all of the stakeholders, staff, families, and community members, at least ostensibly, that is the goal. That's not always necessarily the case in practice. And so that's part of one of the things that we'll be focused on. In general, our function is to advise, listen, examine data, recommend actions, and promote community engagement. I'll pause so that everyone can see the
I'm just gonna hit new session. If you could, that'd be great.
slides. I see that There's a challenge getting them presented. There we go.
There we
So yes, you can see the bullet points up there: advise, listen, examine data, recommend actions, and promote community and engagement. Excuse me, community engagement. So that's the function. We'll go to the history. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, this is the second iteration of the Equity Committee. The original committee was formed in response to community interest in equity and inclusion and did significant foundational work. That first committee's biggest accomplishment was the development of the district's guiding documents, the equity non-negotiables and the equity lens, which I'm always excited and heartened to see how extensively they're incorporated into the board's work. So thank you all. That validates the really hard work that we did to get them all done. But it also reinforces, of course, the goals that we're all here for. So thank you. There was a brief pause, and the committee was relaunched in 2024, last year, with a renewed focus on partnership, data-informed action, and increasing community participation. So to those ends, I'm here to also talk about our purpose today. This current equity committee is focused on increasing active participants within the committee. Because of that pause, I think at the height of when we were doing the equity lens and district non-negotiables work, we had around a dozen people who would come most of the time. You know, a few on the, so we ended up with maybe a meeting of 9 or 10, but there were always a couple in and out. Right now, we're a lot smaller than that. And of course, when there was a gap, that was one of the impacts or kind of results of that gap. So increasing active participants is important, and that's why we continue to meet this summer so that we didn't have to start over brand new at the beginning of the school year, but instead we had a bit of a longer on-ramp in leading into the school year. In addition to increasing participation, we want to deepen an understanding of equity within our schools, build relationships with underrepresented groups, both represented on the committee, but of course within the district as well. Elevate community voice in district decisions. We want to support implementation of the equity lens and non-negotiables in everyday practice. Really, really great that it's here and being used at the board level. How do we ensure that students, teachers, families, everyone else who's a stakeholder in our district has awareness of the tools and also a capacity and ownership of them and a willingness and ability to use them as needed to bring up the conversations to engage where it's needed. And then last but not least, to track progress on the work that we're doing collectively and identifying where more support or change is needed. And our shared goal is a district, we join you all in the goal, is in a district where all students, families, and staff it feel seen, heard, and valued. I'll say feel and are, right? It's not enough to just feel it. It's not enough if they are seen and valued, but they don't feel it. So there's kind of two components of that, right? And where, of course, systems are responsive to the needs of every learner. So that is my presentation today on the Equity Committee. And
Jenny?
Yes, would love to turn it over to Jenny if she's able to join in, and
Can you hear me?
she's in transit and wasn't quite sure how available she'd be.
I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why. Oh. Can you hear me now?
Can you say that again?
No, I'm gonna. No, I'm not. That's not what's happening.
She's in a chat.
Oh, I think she's driving.
No,
She's a passenger, she's not driving, but not.
I'm not
Can
driving.
you
No.
type it? We're not able to hear you.
I don't know why. No, I don't know.
While we're waiting, can I say something?
Yes, please,
And
please.
for the increasing active participants, you should say something about the 4th of
Ridiculous.
July parade.
Yes, thank you. That's the photos, which thank you for joining us. Danielle, thank you for the photos. We joined members of the school board for the 4th of July parade with the explicit intention of, again, raising awareness. We created a QR code where folks could scan and get get directed to the meeting schedule. And so this is the first time I think that the equity committee has ever joined in that effort. And while we didn't get any clear data in terms of people attending the QR code, we did have just anecdotal data of our experience of people being really responsive and engaged with our non-negotiables and our equity lens, both of which we were holding on signs, as you can see, and some folks who seemed to clearly be aware of the equity committee and excited about our presence. Some who even knew the schedule and said, "I'm coming to the next meeting." So not great data in terms of follow-up on that, but that's an example of one of the things that we did to try to raise awareness of the committee itself and our work.
Anything from Jenny?
Not yet.
Okay.
And we did talk beforehand, so she knew she would be introduced.
To make sure she wanted to.
For sure.
No, she said, I don't have anything else to add.
Okay.
But you know what? She did add, and the people on Zoom could hear her.
Oh.
We just can't hear her.
Oh,
Got it.
So we'll be able to listen to that recording.
Okay. Chris, do you have any more comments or thoughts?
No, except to thank you for your work on this. You've obviously been here from the beginning and shaped things that are used every day. So thank you for that leadership and that vision.
Thank you.
Katie?
I'm kind of the liaison member here, so I go there, I try not to, step on any toes with anything, and I don't, but it's a very small group, but very mighty, and I hope we'll get some other people to come join us, because I mean, even just raising awareness would be great right now, we're very I'm very sorry. We have a lot we want to get done, and it'll be a lot easier with.
And for the record, far from stepping on toes, you've been helping us significantly in direct a number of things, directing us to where the resources are, connecting us to various things that are helpful in terms of our information. So thank you so much for liaising. I'll also just add for the record in terms of our one of our most immediate outreach needs. Right now, we don't have any parents from Parkway. And so just putting it on there to whatever extent you all have the capacity to raise awareness of that on our behalf. We definitely need representation from the parents who are of students at Park.
Is there still an orientation day, like a sign up day and people come in? That might be a place if you can to staff a table.
Playground date. When is that? It's not on the calendar.
Yeah, that would be places where you could.
Just open house dates? Oh, okay, so it's separate this year, not just one. Cause on the calendar, there's a Parkway open house and there's a Glen Hills open house.
That's what it was last year too.
Right, but there was also like the one day where everybody came here to make
That's
sure that
materials
paperwork,
pickup, that's like. That's
paperwork was in order.
We didn't do that last
Didn't
year.
do it last year?
There's really not much.
Like picture day and stuff.
Yeah, picture day would be scheduled on open house days.
Got it,
Yeah.
okay.
So you could have a flyer that you just have present. And a QR code.
Or then
or a poster.
non-negotiables.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
yeah, if any of you wanted to, like, if you want a table there, we're more than happy to have you. We have,
Definitely,
we
yeah.
have, I think the foundation will be there, PTO will be there, we likely will have Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts.
We'd love to join that.
Whole
Yes.
Yeah.
And any of the events, I think we would like to be present at. So we'll see how many will actually be able to be there for, but we'll commit to trying to attend as many as we
And
can.
I would say, I think I can confirmly say that the events, the known events right now are already on the calendar for next year. So everything should be out.
Great, excellent.
Card.
I mean, the benefit of the committee is represented in the documents that you created, which you do use. It's really essential to our work. So in that respect, there's no doubt that continuing it. And I think also to your point, continuing the naturalized use and that turning to it and referencing it and ingraining it into our practices, top down, bottom up, is really key. So I appreciate that we have continued effort. Have we ever had any community members who didn't have children enrolled in the district?
Well,
Is that?
there were teachers and staff.
You had interest from a friend of yours who was very involved with equity, but was adjacent to
Yeah, correct.
like.
Correct.
So, I mean, I think there probably is interest if we
can promote. Now we have a Nextdoor account too, so
Okay.
like we could ask.
I was just asking if that has, if
Not
we've
yet.
successfully tapped into that,
No.
because I would think that that would be particularly challenging, right? Unless you had relationships with someone, but I love that I'm assuming that's part of what you're talking about, right? Lifting up community voice.
That's right, that's right.
So I love that that's one of the goals. It's excellent. Thank you for your work.
Daniel?
So when we approved the proposal, which is what is attached to board docs, one of the things that I was focused on last time was sort of like the vast amount of goals or like things that the committee might be doing. So I'm curious because I think I think the board has to like assign a specific task or assignment, you know? And so I'm thinking like, what what would you and Jenny like, if there had to be like a specific task or assignment, I don't know if the function, like the function might be too broad to qualify, but so I'm wondering.
Language of the policy is that we're supposed to assign specific topics for study or well-defined areas of activities.
Like, or, yeah, so like we should know an assignment has been completed, like that would be
Right.
the end of that tenure, and then you'd get renewed for a different assignment or something like that. So like I gravitate towards some of the items in the proposal, but I'm wondering if you got like if you would be able to, what's the word? Distill down to like a more specific task or assignment.
Like a deliverable.
Yeah, well, yeah, and
Yeah.
building on Carnes too, I mean, I saw really good reception to the posters and the promotion of the lens and the non-negotiables, and that's actually where the last committee sort of, before we fell off, we were really focused on like, how can we with administration push into the schools and like make the equity non-negotiables and the lens like ubiquitous, right? Like that was sort of, but we were, it was time, there was transit, yeah. So anyway, so I gravitate towards that as a potential, but I guess I'm curious if you were Jenny or Katie, like you said, there's a lot of things you guys wanna do. Is there any like one thing that might be the starting point that like the board could officially, you would say, hey, board officially approve this?
I would love to jump in and respond to that, yeah, because I think the answer is definitely yes.
Okay,
The question is largely about timing. I think before we can clearly commit to any specific course of action or projects that we can take on, we've got to know how many people are there taking action with us. If it's 4 people, what we can do is obviously going to be different than if it's 14.
Yeah.
And so I think the goal right now is to raise awareness and drive people to join us for the first September meeting of the school year. If we're able to do that somewhere in September and then by October get you proposals, the aim would be to do kind of a deep data dive on that initial meeting with as many as we can get recruited from the events leading into the school year, and then based on the data and our examination of it, come up with some proposals that we would share back with the board, that you could then advise and narrow down, what specific actions and projects we might focus on over the course of the school year.
Yeah, because we also have to approve a membership roster, so I would definitely think it'd be great to give you guys some time to try to like beef up that membership to see like how much people power you might have.
Yeah.
You know, but, and that's it.
Yeah, so same brain, that's what's on my list, that I think, from a oversight perspective and compliance with policy, we never approved membership, we just dropped that ball, so we need to have an opportunity to have a slate come before us and then approve membership, and then I do like Danielle, I've always worried that this list that we approved was, when we re-upped the committee, was just sort of broad. And so, yeah, there's great ideas in here, but it's too much, right?
100%.
For 3 or 4 people. So I love the idea of coming back at like maybe the first meeting of October and presenting a slate. And I guess if you wanted to, you could either then also present like your recommendation for what you want the actual scope of work to be for the semester for your first task. I think it might even, I think it would be helpful for you to have that kind of focus, even if that simple task is increasing awareness by being present at it, you know, whatever it is, like, I mean, it's a fabulous, it sounds like a simple goal, but it's a hard goal. Information dissemination, I mean, there's a whole NIH institution on information dissemination, right? Because it's really hard to do, so that's something you could do. If that's, you think you could work with that? You could put it back on in.
Yeah,
You could do recruitment through September,
yep,
see who's interested, come with a slate of names. And then ideas. And the other thing I would suggest, if we're gonna do that in the first week of October, is to make sure you're working closely with Anna as you think through. Because you know, we just approved KPIs, key performance indicators, and we're working really on being sort of everybody all in one direction. So in my ideal world, you would look at those KPIs and ask, where does the work that equity committee is doing fit into, like, target maybe one or two of those KPIs to help move that ball
Yeah.
for the district,
That'd be
right?
great.
And it seems like the easiest place that would fit would be under that pillar of community engagement and community empowerment. So it'd be really cool for, you know, that's, I mean, I'm thinking very, I have no idea what, this is all very inchoate thinking, but that's where I think that work seems to really fit for the equity committee, is in that community engagement, building community participation and all that, but if you could work with Anna so that we're all kind of moving the ship in the same direction, I think that would be fabulous.
Yeah, great idea. We're lucky to have strong alignment with you all, with the board, right? This isn't oppositional. We're working together in coordination. So I think that to whatever extent we can solidify that alignment by agreeing on, like, here's the priorities, would love to do that.
Yeah. And having been an Uber volunteer in our own time, I know how hard it is. I really appreciate you sticking to it and staying the course and showing up for the 4th of July. You look good in it. It's really good. You should just put that on front back for each event.
Sandwich board.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Just wear it all the time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Jenny forced her children to
Yeah.
decide, but you know,
It's one way to disseminate information is on t-shirts. You could do a fundraiser where you put the top level, like the 5 equity non-negotiables on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Would be a really neat kind of project if you wanted to, you know, I mean, there's lots and lots of ways you could do it, but
You could do a student contest.
We talked,
Yeah,
we talked about a
student
contest for
contest.
posters or things like that.
Yeah.
Can I just add to, just like keep us abreast of like any materials you want us to share, maybe on Facebook or through just our connections and the district too.
right,
District Facebook, and like you could ask them to post through Facebook next door. You know, I don't know if like we could do an email blast, depends, or put it in Thursday, you know,
Yeah, you
or
could do
something.
a recruitment flyer.
So just like,
folder.
let's like, I will definitely try to help push your message for the next couple months and get people.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I'll follow up with the dates and times for those 2 open houses at both schools, so there can maybe like some divide and conquer there, and then I will also follow up with you on just making sure I've got your meeting schedule solidified and in the calendar and ready to go, and then also some advertisements for those meetings, so we can push that.
Perfect. And just reiterating, communications to me and Jenny both were hand in hand. I think both of us agree that neither of us could do it on our own. So
That's really helpful for me to know, because
yeah.
I know I initially met with Jenny, so I've been pushing communication to her, but I will get everybody in the loop now.
perfect.
Awesome, I'd be happy to.
Thanks, Abby.
All right, let's go.
Yeah, thank you.
Jenny, did you have something else to add? Okay. Nope.
All right, moving on to nursing services, item 3, now 4.
Here. All right, I am bringing forward to the board the nursing report that was prepared by Kim Hess. And it is in alignment with policy 5310.01, emergency nursing services, as well as care of students with chronic health conditions, also control of casual contact and communicable diseases, direct contact and communicable diseases, and control of bloodborne pathogens. So our school nurse on an annual basis prepares a report for the board to sort of outlining the health services that we provide as a part of our district in order to help keep our students and staff in good health. Our nurse, we're very lucky. She has done a really good job of making sure that she has stayed on top of these components of maintaining allergies, maintaining medications, maintaining systems around this, and does a really thorough job with it. So the report outlines student health as well as looking at some of our practices and procedures around our training. I think a highlight that I would like to point out in the report is with the high immunization rate within our district, which is a celebration for our community on that. And a testament to the work that Nurse Hess does to collect all of that information and work with the immunization record through the departments of health.
And do we still do immunization clinics
Yeah,
here?
we're going to have a
Yeah, that's it.
vaccination clinic at both open houses to help support vaccinations in our community. With a nice, she's prepared something that has a nice QR code too, so people can scan their insurance and ensure that they're covered. Yep. It takes a look at the doses of medication administered. We work very diligently with families to help promote the health of our students and make sure that they're receiving medication that needs to be delivered and administered on a timely schedule that impacts their time that they're in school. I think some of the other areas that I believe Nurse has gets into is sort of the mandatory training that our staff do as being public school servants and making sure that we are up to date on compliance around reporting. And then she also put in some recommendations, which actually should be for the next school year. She wants to have a continued focus on reviewing the existing health plans, so students who have health plans in our district. We need to make sure that all necessary staff who are working with that student are up to date on what that student needs, and those health needs can shift, so Nurse Hess would be consistently managing those plans and making sure that all staff who are involved with that student are updated on any changes or modifications. Reviewing the medications and health conditions from the previous school year, making sure that we reach out to parents at the start of the school year, to make sure that we have any new information. She would like to work with partnering with a local Lions Club, and I actually have a contact that I met at one of the Lions Club pancake breakfasts that was held here in the community. Because they do come out and they provide vision screenings, which is a really key service that the Lions Club does in service to the community.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so they help provide vision screenings and also can help connect us with people to help reduce barriers for students who might need eyeglasses. Also continuing to make sure that we get all of our K-4 students in and that we have the EpiPens for schools programs. So we receive free EpiPens for each school in the building to use for an allergic reaction if there's an emergency. So those would be EpiPens that are housed by the district in case we have a student with an unknown allergy and we have an emergency situation, we would have that on hand, which would be a life-saving component. Also, monitoring the immunization and continuing to stay on top of that. CPR training for staff and working on achieving what is called the Heart Safe School designation for Project Adam, which is really learning how to use the cardiac machines that we have, the AED machines that we have. And I think really working to expand some of that training and look at how we might have some certified CPR staff and tighten up health plans with after school activities and advice as well. So also making sure that our crisis and health response team at each school is a team of teachers, administrators, SST members, as well as our health room assistants and Nurse Hess to respond to if there's an emergency health crisis in the building, that they're ready to provide CPR, administration of the AED machine, as well as first aid. And then the other component that we added last year was opioid reversal agents too. So we do have that available to us as well in case there were to be a situation that would arise. So we'll continue to work with our district medical advisor, Dr. Melby, to make sure we're stocking all the appropriate medications for our schools and keeping up with practice guidelines. He serves as a really great resource when we have questions about, in particular, this last year when there was an outbreak of measles in some of the states, our neighboring states. He was available to provide some good advice in that area. Continuing to stock albuterol in our schools in case kids have asthma attacks, and then continuing with the wellness committee and also being a part of looking at our policies and working really closely, because this is an area that we identified as an area of weakness, is building a better system to have people who are staying after school with students, because at that point in time, an after school situation is where there is probably like a weak point in our practices. Because you have people who are volunteering and working with students, and we don't have a healthcare or a response team on site. So making sure that those people have adequate information and training about the students that they're working with. And, yeah. So that is the nursing report from Kim Hess. Any questions? We'll start with Katie.
It's a very thorough report.
No, I would just reiterate, as a parent who has had to be concerned about a young child who was too young to carry their own EpiPen, but also like. Is everyone trying to recognize what anaphylaxis looks like? Because it is not always obvious.
No.
And are there sufficient people trained to be able to deliver those medications timely? These lovely ladies were with me the very first time we experienced this, so. But, I would just continue to push all staff should be trained every year, in my opinion, about what anaphylaxis looks like, and also potentially be prepared to administer that kind of medication, because a student might not be able to self-administer. Sometimes things go very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And we just never want to have a scenario in which you had a lapse. So ABQ will talk you through it, which is great, because your own cortisone is pumping, but in adrenaline, but I just would push for everybody to really be familiar with those signs.
Thanks.
And training,
I
because
appreciate
it's key.
I've hit a person with an EpiPen. Have you had to hit your child with an EpiPen?
I thankfully have not had to, but I did have to explain to my mother why you shouldn't play with one. And we have had to deal with. Anaphylaxis suspected issues, so it's scary. And thank you for your support in that moment.
Danielle?
Well, just to follow up on what Karen said, the staff training, the mandatory DPI staff training, is that only for new staff at the beginning of the year? Or does that happen every year for staff?
Every year, staff has training, so the mandatory reporting, there's a cycle that DPI recommends, so mandatory reporting of child abuse and neglect is a 4-year cycle, so every 4 years, staff would have to revisit that unless DPI releases new training, which they did this year, so that would be pushed to all staff. The training on mandatory reporting of threats of school violence, I believe, is also on a 3 or 4 year cycle, so that would go through. So if we have new people who start in the district, they get everything, right?
Okay.
And then our staff who are here, we maintain a record of their training, and then we rotate those trainings through prior to their expiration. So we rotate on a 3 year because it's 4 years.
Okay, so do you know, is the medication administration also on like a 3 or 4 year cycle?
Medication administration is annual, and
Okay.
there's like a refresher that happens annually, and then a full piece. And that is typically done, to Karen's point, is typically done with our nurse, our health room assistants, our school administrative assistants, our administrators. And so it is not, that medication authorization does not necessarily go to everyone on our staff, right?
Okay.
It's for the key people who would be actually administering meds so there is a point of like a breakout of that. What we do is if like when students go to Washington DC, or if like Jen Clark is taking a bunch of kids to Clutch Park and she's got to carry an EpiPen, she would have that training from Kim Hess to know what to do.
Oh, okay.
Because she is with, because of that child in an outside situation.
Just a few suggestions maybe for next year for the report. I would appreciate if Ms. Hess would come present herself. It's only like an 1 year annual report, and I feel like it would just be good to like form more of a relationship with her and kind of understand what she's doing. And it would be I would love to see like follow up on the last year's recommendations in this report. So like where we're at with what the goals were.
Yep.
And then because this is in the public documents, I did ask for like the names of the health employees because I forget them. And so I'm like, but I'm thinking about like a person looking at this, and it's just another space to kind of make visibility for Ms. Hess and the health staff on this report to have like their names and number, like how you get a hold of them. so those were just my suggestions, otherwise I appreciate all of this work, it's reflective of her doing an amazing job and I'm excited for the wellness committee follow-up and
Mhm.
just to kind of see how some of these things progress, over time that she's working on.
Ditto, and my question was about the wellness committee, because we have one now, don't we?
We
Or is it
do.
still-
We do, and they've been meeting all year, so Kelly Rice Galacki and Kim Hess are charging up the wellness committee. You guys have had like almost monthly meetings throughout the school year.
Yeah, probably monthly, probably spaced out a little bit more than that. but
Okay.
I think they'd be ready to present.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think they have a list of recommendations, but I know when I talked with Kelly and Kim, they kind of wanted to wait until they could bring people who are on that committee to be part of that work
Yeah.
with the board.
So at some point in the coming year, we'll hear.
Probably in the fall. I
Okay,
think.
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, all the things. For me, it's just good to be reminded how much the training stacks up. All these pieces of information that our teachers have to hold
Oh, yeah, for sure.
and
Yeah.
keep present.
Yeah, and I think the other part is too, is like, I think the importance of having that cycle too in some ways, or like noting the fact that these are mandatory trainings. I think the key piece to remember too, especially if you're a new teacher coming into a district, is you're learning all sorts of things and then you're stacking this on top of this.
Right.
And you're coming into a school year, and sometimes I don't wonder about the timing of the trainings in
Right.
terms of it sticking, and I'm sure anybody
Right.
who's worked in education, it's usually a requirement in the way that it's listed is it has to be done before a student starts school, right?
Right.
So we make sure that it's like we've covered our bases and people knowing the information, but truly understanding the information. So I think there's a good place for like reminders, just like with students, like you don't, something doesn't become internalized unless you use it all the time.
And to that point, I would wonder, do you guys then house these links because most of these are online trainings, correct?
Yeah.
That can be accessed if you look for them, but is there a place where the staff might be able
Yeah,
to revisit it if they decide they would like a
yeah,
refresh?
that's I mean, that would be easy enough for us to just
Yeah.
have that, like we do weekly updates to the staff from the different schools to just have like have those links there if somebody is curious about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It also tends to be more salient once you have someone who,
That's what.
might have something that makes you think like, oh,
I should know how to use an EpiPen.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things that one of the functions of education is like, they get a certificate, it prints off, there's a record kept of that, and it's dotting i's and crossing t's, but it doesn't necessarily mean deep understanding, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Actually, could I reclaim something?
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Can I let Chris have a chance first so I don't forget? I'll come back to you.
Okay, thanks. One of the things I noticed is, just the large percentage of students with behavioral and mental health trainings that the caregivers have called out. And so first of all, that's a shout out to the caregivers, for reporting that, right? Because there can be a stigma sometimes, and yeah, that shows me they recognize the importance of the whole child and that they trust the school with that information and to work with their child. It also really calls out the importance of SEL and mental health support. They're coming with these needs. Okay, so that helps with grants, that helps with just our focus, I think. The other thing, I really appreciate the recommendations. I thought they were really good, really good. I also wondered about choking and if lunchroom attendants, if they don't already know how to deal with choking, if that was something that might be helpful.
And if we keep, there's Caitlin's very thorough and has like a choking, like it's a device that like can pull out, like if you can't. Anyway, I'll share it with you, but if it might be something that would be good to have on hand in our school, if we don't already. It's like it looks like a plunger kind of, it's
Nice.
the deepest of choking section.
I've seen commercials.
Yeah, well.
So home shoppers,
Yeah, well,
just buy your own mouth plunger. Sorry, Chris.
So yeah,
Sorry.
excellent report, very helpful. Thank you for the work. Every day.
Thanks, Chris. Karen?
And this is probably emblematic of like. It was quite a while ago, but even just for what it's worth as a parent, I had a first grade teacher ask if my student who has a nut allergy could be in a different classroom while she did her favorite project in her classroom, which was painting a pine cone with peanut butter. And my response to her was yes, if you can guarantee that every surface is going to be completely free and clear of any oils or contaminants, so that my child doesn't come back into his own classroom. And she's like, well, it's just really too bad that those poor birds are not gonna get their peanut butter this year.
No.
Yes, and I want teachers to understand, this is a very alienating thing to have happen to a family or to a student. And so even just that kind of understanding, I think we've come very far.
Yeah.
And that understanding, but I just, like, it still sticks with me, clearly, like, my kid is a long way from first grade. And it was an extraordinary moment, like, what?
I think every parent with a kid with allergies, and
Yes.
my daughter also has significant allergies, has that experience.
Yeah,
And that, to me, I circle back to the Ross Green idea, when you look at kids who behave in a way that can, I think often kids with food allergies are more isolated,
mhm,
alienated, they don't get to participate in treats in the same way, there's just a sense of, I'm not a part in the same easy way that other kids are. It creates ripples
yeah,
that really impact kids with allergies.
yeah, and it was just really helping staff truly understand, like,
Yeah.
how that impacts. And there are many, many other things to be very concerned about. I'm not trying, it's just that's my personal force.
I appreciate you pointing out the mental health numbers and that positive spin on it, which is really true, because we do work hard on it here. And when we get to the budget stuff, they're cutting mental health funding, right, out of the state, right, when we know we continue to need it. There it is. Any visitor comments or questions about the nursing report? Anyone else? 40s?
Remember doing the pine cones with vegan lard?
Oh, that's right, was it you who brought peanut butter to one of our volunteer days?
I volunteered at that, I do not recall if I brought.
Yeah, I remember, just reminded, you were like, I forgot about peanuts, and we ended up using vegan lard.
Yeah.
That's right.
It was absolutely disgusting.
It was
It
great,
had a blast.
but it was super safe.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to 3/4B. Okay. But you notice it, and we're like, oh, I'll just take this back home.
And it was first kid,
Yeah.
you know, first volunteering at
Listen,
Parkway.
making a mistake is not good, that's a learning opportunity,
Yeah.
right?
Seclusion and restraint report.
All right, so, all right, so, policy, 5630.01, requires the annual reporting of seclusion and or restraint of students. This report is presented by encompassing the grade level of impacted students, the number of restraints and incidents, the number of seclusion incidents. And after board review, this report will be shared via submission guidelines from the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction. And the report also outlines the district process for meeting reporting requirements and mandatory training requirements for staff. So our staff in our schools are trained in Crisis Prevention Institute, which is CPI training, to get a blue card certification. It is a training actually that was going on yesterday in our building for staff who needed to be recertified. And then also those who need a refresher course to maintain their status as being certified. We work to certify all of our administrators, all of our special education staff, including our paraprofessionals. As well as members or teachers who might have might be part of like a crisis response team. So like at Glen Hills, for example, we have 3 floors, we have we have staff members on each floor that respond to a crisis, so those people would also be trained. So we maintain a list of that training, make sure that people go through it. It's pretty intensive training. There's some like 2-hour pre-work and like an 8-hour training that is involved in getting trained in those areas. The premise of the work is to work on verbal de-escalation and to avoid any kind of hands-on behavior with students, and that is the modality in which we operate as educators in our work with students. This year's seclusion and restraint report was prepared using information from EduClimber, which is our student information system, and then these incidents are also entered into Infinity Campus because that pulls that information over to the state as well. What you can see in this report is the number of impacted students. So there were 6 students in total who are impacted in our district with some form of seclusion or restraint. You can see that the number of restraint incidences is in the first column, and so there were 15 incidences of restraint, and there were 2 incidences of seclusion. I have also included in here demographic information as well as on each student so that we have a look at that. When students, and I can ask Kelly to clarify this, is when students receive 3. Typically 2 incidents of restraints, the IEP teams do have to come back together and reconvene to determine what they can do differently to help prevent that from being a part of that child's school experience. So there's constant review of this, and there's always the aim for us to try to work in a different way to keep students in our schools, not have them alternatively placed, and work with them and their needs. So questions from the board?
Yeah, so for kids who are already identified as having special education needs, you reconvene the IEP. What about students who have not yet been identified or who do not qualify for special education? What is the?
May I talk?
Yeah,
Okay,
please.
of course. Oftentimes there is a meeting with the parent, problem solving team will come together. Sometimes they'll do a full functional behavior assessment. Sometimes they'll do a brief functional behavior assessment, put together a potential behavior intervention support plan. Sometimes a seclusion or restraint may end up in a referral or a special education evaluation. So a few of those students didn't start the school year, identified as a student requiring specially designed instruction or a 504 plan, but ultimately that was the decision. The goal always is to support the student to prevent something like that occurring again. So that's generally what happens.
And I'm sorry, because I did not think to ask this before. I'm not trying, I don't expect you to magically have this data, but were all of these students already on some kind of tier 2, or the 2 students who weren't on an IEP, are they on like some kind of tier 2 behavior intervention already? And
Yep.
so they have like
Yes.
that tiered MLSS in
Yes.
place and functioning?
These students have a behavior plan in place
Okay,
that don't already have a 504 or an IEP.
thank you.
Daniel? I don't have any questions. I wanna say, just because I went offline to ask around process to just inquire about how restraint and seclusion incidents are recorded, so I feel very confident that everything is being captured that's happening in our schoolhouses. It is a high number and I can see why. I know that every incident of restraint and seclusion is really hard on teachers as well. You know that is tough. Sitting here, I've been sitting and wondering, what kind of follow-up makes sense with teachers, you know, who have to hold on to resilience through the school year. Not expecting an answer, but I sit here thinking about that. When you have a hard year like this, I wonder about what extra effort needs to be made to help teachers regain equilibrium, regain resilience, and being able to continue handling challenging behaviors so that we're managing classrooms as effectively as we can. It's something that I'm thinking about. I don't know what your thoughts are around that, or if you don't have any, I understand.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably some of the hardest work.
Yeah.
I think early in my career as an administrator, watching a new teacher see one of her students restrained, not by her, but by someone else, and just like sitting with her with tears running down her face. That's not why we go into education, right? It's incredibly hard and incredibly challenging, and it's not a decision that's made lightly. As somebody who's had to feel challenging behaviors in my role as a principal, and as an assistant principal, like you walk the edge of letting it go as long as you possibly can.
Yeah.
To see if you can bring it back without going there, right?
Doesn't abate,
Yeah.
doesn't extinguish.
Yep, and I think one of the things that we see this year is a jump in number because there was more accuracy reporting. But I also will be transparent in the fact that we need to improve our accuracy in not necessarily capturing the incidents, but in our reporting to families. And so, Ms. Wexler and I, as well as our work with the principal, is outlining that SOP and making sure there's more clarity around that. So that there's clear documentation, because it's incredibly important that we bring families into the fold and really think, like to your point earlier about, you know, parents know their kids, they know what might work. I mean, and there are parents who will sometimes say to you, like, I need you to give my kid a big bear hug when they get like that, because that's what they need, right? And so like just being able to have those conversations and open the door to doing what's in the best interest of a child, I think is an area that we're gonna just get better and is part of our work.
Yep.
Yeah.
Can we come back around to you?
Well, just a quick comment on what she said.
Okay.
One sentence.
Yep.
That could be a good place for the dean of students to insert themselves in terms of just relationship building after seclusion and restraint. Possibly.
Yeah, and an administrator, we would want the administrator to reach out to the family and to do some of that,
Yeah,
but plans in place afterwards, yeah.
yeah, or maybe like ongoing, like the
Yeah.
follow-up.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Chris,
I don't have any questions, thanks.
Katie? All right, I think this is one we have a motion on, right? We have to approve the report. No, we didn't have to approve the nursing, but this is DPI mandate that we have to approve the report to submit.
I move to approve the 2024-2025 seclusion and restraint report attached to this agenda.
Second.
Yes.
Karen got it.
Yeah.
All right, motion by Danielle, second by Karn to approve the 24-25 seclusion and restraint report. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Write this down in my motion book. Moving on.
Oh, from Heather.
Oh, comment about the seclusion and restraint report?
Yeah.
Yes. State your name and address for the record.
Chelsea C, 6525 North Range Line Road, Glendale, Wisconsin, 53209. What support do you have in place, if you do, to help the class regroup after a possible situation? Is there something to help them not be afraid of the person? How to welcome them back in? What to do?
There is some restorative work, I think. Typically, when I'll just say, typically when I look at those kind of things, it typically is a two-person hold to remove a student from that situation, right? And but so that other students are not impacted, if that makes sense. In instances where there's like some form of dysregulation and students would come back in, I know that our student services team will work with it. Our building principals will go in and speak with the class. Sometimes provide pointers for teachers if they want to do that work, but to support them in having those conversations. I think it's tricky because sometimes you have core adults who can help support those conversations who are tied up moments after it happens, and it's something that they have to walk back then, right? And I don't know that that's always ideal, because then kids have to hold that without explanation. But then in other ways that it would allow them to ask questions. So yes, we do try to really walk back into that space and try to bring kids back into the fold.
Thank you for the question.
And may I just add, if you go on DPI's website, you can see all of the data from all the school districts across Wisconsin that report out seclusion and restraint data, and they also have an analysis that shows trends overall across the state, which is just really interesting to read.
How do we sit in that story? You have I'm not asking you to look it up, but do you have a standing sense of?
My standing sense is that we're not sitting in a terrible place compared to other school districts.
Yeah.
And I'm even looking at, there's like a heat map of restraints per 1,000 students enrolled.
That's a nice way.
I want to say that that's what I would call it, but it's
Yeah.
interesting. I mean, it's just interesting to look at. Yeah.
Thank you. Anything else on seclusion and restraint? All right, we've passed that motion. Moving on to the staffing roster.
All right.
Yeah.
So, I am, per board policy, I'm bringing forward, professional educators for, being able to, have the board approve their hires. I am also bringing forward our paraprofessionals, just so there's transparency in our work. I do need to make some adjustments to this. We had two of the people being recommended tonight will be removed, due to the decline in offer. The first one to be removed from a motion would be Matthew Upson as math teacher. So I will not be bringing that as a recommendation. And also Daniel Fay as special education teacher at Glen Middle School. Okay. So,
5 hires we're looking at.
yeah, so I'm recommending the appointment of Jessica Ishii as Dean of Students at Parkway Elementary. I'm also recommending the appointment of Danica Hess as the library paraprofessional at Parkway. I'm recommending Melissa Temple as second grade teacher at Parkway Elementary. And Kathleen Zweig as special education teacher at Parkway Elementary. And also Antoine Brown as a special education paraprofessional. My apologies, there's an error in the motion. She is a paraprofessional at Glen Hills Middle School.
Should we proceed en masse or individually? Whoever wants to make the motion can decide. This is a laissez-faire board meeting.
Okay. I move to approve the appointment of Jessica Ishii as Dean of Students at Parkway Elementary, comma, Danica Hess as library paraprofessional at Parkway Elementary, comma, Melissa Temple as second grade teacher at Parkway Elementary, comma, Kathleen Zweig as special education teacher at Parkway Elementary, comma, and Antoine Brown as special education paraprofessional at Glen Hills Middle School.
Beautiful, nailed it. Is there a second?
Thomas for the record.
Second by Chris Robinson. Any discussion?
I have two.
Did you, oh, let's hear, oh, go.
I think it's your turn anyway, right?
Yeah, it's my turn.
Go ahead.
What's the joke?
I already semicolons.
Ah, okay.
Graham, okay.
I don't know if that's technically correct though.
Oh, okay, we call it.
Well, arm wrestle.
No, I had a question, the library paraprofessional, I think the supervisor is listed as Mr. Krager, or as the principal.
Yeah.
So I was just curious, like, how, like, why not the library and tech coordinator, or like what the, or like how this
Yeah.
library paraprofessional is going to interact with the tech coordinator? Yeah, just what's the,
Good
Um,
question.
Yeah, it is a really great question, and
thank you.
probably maybe should, it probably maybe should be both. The only reason why Mr. Krager is listed as that person is that will be the point of contact for like requesting days off and things like that. It
Okay.
would be potentially
okay,
like, because they serve in their building and service kids, so
Okay.
like that direct org chart within Skyward will be Mr. Krager, so that he
Okay.
knows like that person's out, cause if it were to go to Mr. O'Hagan and Mr. O'Hagan's over here, he may not see it,
Okay.
maybe shift kids with the
Okay.
teacher, right?
okay,
Mr. O'Hagan will be working with Jenica as well on planning out what happens during those classes in the library, and will kind of be sort of behind the scenes working with that person in the library around the work that happens there.
okay,
And that will also be true in his work with Sharon Krager here, whose supervisor would be Willie, because of the same issue,
Okay.
with the way Skyward
okay,
categorizes that out. So
Okay.
yes, technically you could say both are supervisors to a degree.
okay. I wonder if that is or should be reflected like in the duty or job description. I don't recall if it, but just so there's clarity, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's in the job description, I don't think it's in the offer letter.
Yeah, okay.
And so I do think that should be clarified though in the offer letter as well,
Mhm.
so I agree with you on that.
Okay,
That's a
Um,
good point.
and then my other just like food for thought to consider, because I was inquiring about like the hiring process for
Mhm.
some of these roles. And you shared the SOP for hiring.
Yep.
And I just wanted to put it out there, food for thought, if like utilizing our equity lens or thinking about hiring committees, panels that interview people, if we wanted to like, it might say something like ideally a interview panel might, or will represent or be representative as close as we, something to our demographics, like our district demographics, so that I'm just thinking about equity in hiring, and if you want diversity in panels, that's gonna be a different, potentially take on, like, how people are going to interview or receive applicants. And I don't know if it's cumbersome, because you did explain the process about, who's available and putting that out, et cetera. So I don't know if that is too cumbersome, but it's just something that I wondered if it was worth thinking about, like, outlining, so that whoever the hiring administrator is at least has a moment to pause and think about how they could do that, or, just.
Yeah, I would be completely open to looking at reviewing the SOP lens, the SOP process around hiring through the equity lens to see where there could be adjustments to standardize that process. I know one of the areas that we have standardized is, I think it was reflected in the SOP that I shared with the board, is there are specific questions around equity that are, and anti-racist and anti-bias teaching that are part of our interviews.
Yeah.
And so that is a marker that is a non-negotiable in the questions that are developed. And so that part is there, but I think too, like, thinking about, who is appropriate on certain committees for certain hires and things like that, and then applying that lens to that, I think would be something I would be open to.
Okay, yeah, that's,
Yeah.
I just wanted to put it out there.
Yeah, I think the key piece for me is making sure whatever our process is clearly laid out and consistently followed.
Right. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
I got nothing. Chris?
No.
Katie? Karen? All right, there is a motion by Danielle, second by Chris Robinson. The motion contains commas, not semicolons, but otherwise are about the sound. Motion to approve the hires of, I won't state the positions, but Jess Ishii, Danica Hess, Melissa Temple, Kathleen Zwi, and Anton Brown. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Welcome to the district.
We have some-
Oh,
Just Wayne Martin,
Thank you.
7275 North Fort Washington Road, apartment 1221, Glendale, Wisconsin, 53217. Just for clarification, these are filling empty positions, not additional positions that are added, right?
The dean of students position was created, because we did not, when Mr. Kreger moved into the interim principal position, we're not replacing the assistant principal position. We're moving to a dean of students, so it's a 1-for-1, but a new position title. The library paraprofessional position, we opened up a tech position. And we had a library position posted as well. We combined the tech and library position and then hired a paraprofessional to staff the library at Parkway. Okay, so again, kind of a
same number of.
It was a cost saving.
it is a cost savings there, or cost neutral for sure. And then the special education position was an open position. The second grade teacher position was a filling someone who left. The special education at Parkway position is filling someone who left. And then also the paraprofessional position at Glen Hills is also filling a vacant position from someone who left. So nothing really new, like some adjustments there. Yeah.
And I have to say name and address.
Name and address.
Javier Alanis, 4602 North Elm Tree Road, Glendale 209. This is kind of an addition, I suppose, to Danielle's note about equitable hiring. One of the members of the equity committee who has an HR background wanted to make an emphasis on this strategic pillar around exceptional staff leadership retention, specifically in the area of exit surveys. And so as you're thinking about the equity, using the equity lens on hiring, I would lift up at least the proposal, or there's interest from the equity community to use that same lens on exits and consider how that information or that data is shared out in terms of teachers' experience.
You have been doing exit
I have been doing
Yes,
exit
she's
interviews,
started them.
And I've shared the data with the board and then internally shared with thematically what has come up with that with the administrative team as well.
Is that something that is private, given the nature of hiring and or is that something that the equity committee could?
I think
Access.
I can process out themes because you wanna. In that process of exit interviews, you wanna make sure that you maintain confidentiality, so people feel like they can share what they need to share. So what I did is pull that information together and then shared it out and looked at emerging themes around the questions that were asked. And so since it's generalized thematically, like I don't have a problem sharing what some of those themes are and sharing that information. That doesn't seem like it would be a violation of anyone's confidentiality.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
And I would add what I always say when we talk about exit interviews, stay interviews are equally important.
There you go.
More people stay than leave, and we are just getting a small subset of vision of our
Yeah.
district experience unless we also do stay interviews. It's overrepresenting the departure voice. Yeah. So, also part of the equity story, because often people who stay have a lot of great things we need to know and also want to be heard
Mhm.
and deserve to be heard. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else? Anyone online? All right, moving on to 5B, Educator Effectiveness Evaluation Handbook.
All right, so the educator effectiveness handbook is the superintendent is responsible for establishing a program of personnel assessment under the criteria that's laid out by an approved program. We are using the Danielson model, which is a vetted model for educator effectiveness. We're using materials from Wisconsin DPI, however, they have been adapted to fit our district goals and our vision and strategic plan. So some of the work that has been highlighted in this is going to anchor a lot of the work that we're doing in terms of helping support teachers and some of the things that we found in exit interviews, which is not receiving timely feedback or support in certain areas. And then also around clarity of expectations for educators in their work, as well as clarity of expectations in how they meet the needs of students. So what we are going to be doing in this school year is we are going to be working through a process that involves looking at domain one. So domain one has several different components to it in the Danielson model. We've extracted the component that fits most tightly with our need and desire to make sure that all of our students feel a sense of belonging, and that is knowing and valuing students. So the Danielson model looks at the research around what it means to do that work well. And it's respecting students' identities, understanding students' current knowledge and skills, and knowledge of whole child growth and development, as well as the learning process and learning differences. So it's really knowing your students before you begin to work with them. So our administrators have been provided with, we'll roll this out to staff as sort of an adult learning framework for our district. The goal of evaluation in our district is to continually improve our practices. One of the things that on the administrative side, you see that there are observer focused feedback areas. So after each observation that an administrator would do with our teachers who are on summer year or in their supporting year of evaluation processes is look at asking sort of a distinctive question, and it would be, how did you use your students' assets to plan the lesson I observed? So the idea of queuing up this kind of thinking for adults in this framework is to really get teachers to start to think about what are my students' assets, because they know that an administrator may come in and observe them and be engaging in that conversation to further their work in that area. And so in domain two, this was an area of focus last year where we spent a lot of time doing some administrator calibration around what good teacher practice looks like, because domain two is an observable area. And that's cultivating respect and affirming environments. So in that area, we're looking at positive relationships, sense of belonging, cultural responsiveness, and positive conflict resolution. We did a lot of work in collecting data in terms of our observations, and one of the key areas that we saw was cultural responsiveness as being an area where drawing students' lived experiences into the lesson and making that relevance connection was an area where we didn't see where we saw kind of a gap in teacher practice. So we're looking forward to being able to highlight some of those moments in these areas to teachers, and those would be, as an evaluator, will go in and say, I noticed you doing this, or maybe I didn't notice you doing this. Have you thought about doing this, right? As a way to move teacher practice in that area. Domain 3 is going to be on engaging students in learning, which is having rich learning experiences, collaboration and teamwork, use of instructional materials and resources, and opportunities for thinking and reflection. We also did norming as an administrative team in this area as well last year. So we have some clear look fors for our administrators when they're going in to help support and really look at sort of what that looks like in the classroom and to really support that depth of learning. And really that, as an administrator going to the room, is like looking at those moments in which students are deeply engaged, asking their own questions about things, bouncing ideas off of one another, and furthering their learning in that topic. In domain 4, we also looked at this is principal teaching, so this has a lot to do with professionalism. And so what we looked at is 4C in particular, which is engaging families and communities as an elements of success. So really, how are we messaging and connecting with families about how learning takes place in our classrooms? So the considering question in that area, because this is sort of the back end of teacher practice that you don't see when you're in a classroom observing, is how are you planning to communicate to keep families informed of student learning and collect their input and feedback, right, on that learning. So really kind of getting teachers to start to think about how do we make that homeschool connection and further some of our work in our KPIs and our district strategic plan. There's several different tools for evaluation. All of them involve some sort of form of there's like an opportunity for a teacher to look at their practice in these different domains, do some self-assessment, identify where potential areas of growth are. And then in the form would be where we capture each of those observations and follow-up questions. And then in addition to that, teachers might upload some artifacts in there for us to review as well. And then they write their SLOs, which are their student learning objectives, as well as their professional practice goals that are in conjunction with each other. So they'll have an opportunity in October during our PD day to look at their data and develop those goals. And then there's a mid-internal review that takes place, and then an end of year follow-up. So every 3 years, a teacher has to go through a summary year where they would have 4 mini observations and like a full evaluation. And then when teachers are not in their year for that, they're in a supporting year where they do more collaboration with a peer teacher to kind of discuss some of their SLOs and PPGs. And then we do like 2 observations, 1 in each portion of the year. So that's sort of the process. It's very whittled down. Oftentimes districts look at every single domain and every single topic, and it is really hard to look at teacher practice that way. So this is a linear and focused way that's aligned to our thinking, our planning, and our values in our district. Yeah.
Okay, I think it's my turn. I like the focused approach because everybody all in doesn't mean everything all the time. You gotta be able to focus on a few elements of growth and like, ladder up. I was wondering as you were talking, what happens with new teachers
Every new teacher to our district or new to position needs to be evaluated.
in their first year?
Yeah.
Okay, and then they move on to a 3-year cycle.
Yep.
Okay, but in their off years, they're still getting oversight
Yes.
and review and feedback,
Yeah.
right? Okay. Yeah, I love it. It makes me happy to see engaging families on here. It makes me feel less bonkers about my grounding. Because we do need to be listening to families, so I love that. So this is fantastic. Thank you. Chris?
I love this. I love the whittled down approach.
Yeah.
I love the clarity. I love the transparency. It's such a good way of implementing it, giving a vision and implementing a vision. I love it. Thanks. It's really impressive, like truly, and it kind of just shows how far we've come as a district, that this is kind of where we landed, and it's a huge kudos to you and the leadership, because this is very focused, it's very measurable, it's very like, yeah, it's very just organized, it's all the things, and I love it.
Carmen.
And I felt like it was really obvious that you were applying our non-negotiables and our equity lenses when you guys developed this. It's really obvious here, and I love, I could see Javi was taking pictures of things because it's so enmeshed with like, the purpose of the equity committee. So that in and of itself is just really evident. I also, as someone who does something that's a little bit different than Danielson was developed to measure, really appreciate that you guys have highly specialized and recognize that those things need to be measured in different ways, because they're not just something that enmesh easily with that framework, so that's huge. And I really love that you have the questions framed already, because that allows people to work from a place of informed purpose. And so, this is a process that every 3 years kind of, and no matter how long you've been doing your job, it maybe puts you on edge a little bit, right? Because someone's coming in and they are staring at you, like their whole purpose is watching you. So I feel like this has really been prepared and rolled out, or will be rolled out in a way that allows people to be like, okay, if I'm paying attention, I know what the expectations are. So it's a real growth opportunity for everybody and not a gotcha moment, which is never how it should be. And I think some people feel it does, so props.
Daniel?
I just have a question to make sure I'm understanding. So there's domain 1, domain 2, 3, 4. Some of them are listed as elements of success, and then you have domain 2 as the focus of evaluator feedback. So, and you mentioned adult learning framework. So is like domain 1 and domain 3 and 4, are those not being, or are those also evaluated, or that's a focus of like growing our people in education and not, I don't know, I guess I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, so I think that the easiest way to look at it is in the framework, domain 1 is around, is really, when you look at domain 1, it's planning and preparation. So it's the work that teachers do in order to get ready to teach, right? So that's where like that knowledge of students comes in, like, who are my kids? What do I have to do with them? And like, there's another area in that domain, which is like, I think it was actually just planning, like that planning and preparation models. There's like a 1C, 1A, right? So it like breaks it down. Even like it really delineates that teacher practice. So that's like behind the scenes, like as an observer, I'm gonna go in a room, and because I'm an observer, I probably have an idea whether you planned well or not, right? But I don't see your planning process, right? That's why the question needs to be asked, right? When I go into a room, I can make observations in domains 2 and 3 because that's what's happening in front of me. And I'm watching it in real time with kids, and that's where, as an evaluator, we do some scripting and things like that to kind of like, take apart what happened in that space. Like, teacher asks a question, this is the way kids respond. Like, I'm noticing in a classroom that's like a welcoming environment, that kids feel comfortable sharing their ideas. I might notice that they understand clearly routines and procedures, and it lends to a sense of safety. Domain 3 is really about like the kind of thinking that I'm seeing kids doing and the questions I'm asking teachers do. So that again can be observed in the classroom. Domain 4, that communication with families happens. It's over here. It's like the part you can't see. That's why you ask the question about it, because then it elicits conversation. And becomes an opportunity to do some coaching. And having those cognitive questions in your head when you're thinking about your practice, it's huge.
I mean, just the question alone, if it's informing what you're doing every day with kids can be really powerful. Okay, I get it. Okay, thank you.
Have we made the rounds?
You made the rounds.
All right, love it. Any questions or comments from visitors or online?
Nothing online.
Okay, this is not an action item. This is just sharing. Thank you. Moving on to item 5C, legislative updates. Anna has attached in board docs, I don't know if you all had a chance to look at it, some updated information on budget changes.
Was a little ice swimming.
It was, I went through.
That's a good way to put it.
What I did is I went and found Glendale-River Hills on page 6.
There we go.
And I saw that we expect that our total state funding will go up by about 900,000 in the coming year. Did I read that right? We're gonna see per pupil adjustments that bring us up about 300,000 on revenue limit, maybe 460,000 on sped, 124,000 on high cost sped, and 17,000 more on mental health, which will then be clawed back the following year. So for the coming year, we're gonna see about 900,000 additional revenue, right? Including our revenue limit, and the year after that, 1.5 million more. So I think it's good for us to be aware of that, think about that. I know Anna and Michelle are working on putting together sort of a vision of what advocacy will look like. But, you know, there's referendum stuff that we're gonna have to turn to in the spring probably, so I think this is a really good time for us to dig into the facts and see where our numbers are taking us, so when our business team and leadership start talking with us about what referendum needs we might have, what our budget is looking like, we have a really good handle on what's coming from the state. I don't know yet what the story is on federal funding and how that's gonna impact us. I know you guys are working on that too.
Yeah, at this point, federal funding dollars were then again released, and so. Right now, I think the state is sort of holding that right now to make sure that it's allocated adequately and like in the. So that we can be cautionary in our budgeting in case there's any pullback on
Right.
that right now. It's sort of the caution that we're being advised.
Like tariffs.
Yeah, I mean, it's just,
Take.
yeah,
Yeah.
it just, I think is like a cautionary piece as they work through, because the state was part of the larger lawsuit against withholding. And so just making sure that that's all in place. I think the other key issue is looking at, and I put the other article in there kind of too, like looking at where is education spending in the state of Wisconsin and compared to other states?
Yeah.
And how we have not, you know, despite the fact that there's these increases coming, we have not necessarily continued to make those adjustments that are necessary for inflationary increases. And so there is still, like, I think the work that we need to do around advocacy is have Michelle and I look at like where the pull away was and where the ad was to really see what that falls out to. Because there's some other areas that are going to impact what the ad was. Yeah.
So I hope everyone can find time to kind of look through these things and think through. I don't know what actual advocacy action we have to take now. I think it's gonna be more soft and probably local community starting in the next couple months, as Anna starts putting out newsletters and we start thinking through referenda. And when we know what our voucher story is, right? They're gonna be losing a lot of money, but we don't know yet how much, right? Until enrollment goes through.
I do think it's gonna be, for myself personally, this is good information, and yet. The personal story and the local story is going to have more meaning, right? Like going through these numbers and looking, and I was looking at us compared to other neighboring districts
Yeah,
and similar, and that's great, but for our purposes for educating, advocating, this is not gonna be. This is gonna be data that can inform how we approach things, and it's not gonna be helpful data to the general.
No, but it needs to inform our thinking of what.
Yeah, I mean, I think dipping into that and having that informed your thinking, I think the other part of this will also be, as we take a look at, you know, just kind of the overall distribution and what that means for us in terms of our costs. I think the other area too is looking at like our third Friday count is gonna be an important, our membership count is a really important and key piece to kind of look at our fitness as a district. We know that we've had some like open enrollment students who have now moved into district, so you'll see there's some like when we add resident students, there's like a revenue, we've also lost some students. So it's this balance of like, is that going to break even? And we are seeing some increases in ads at the elementary school as well. So it's gonna be like that number is gonna be a really critical number as we think about what it looks like for us. And once we have that membership count, that's really gonna help us codify some of what we're looking at.
Right. I shared an article with everyone out of the New York Times about falling public school enrollment nationwide. It's a trend. It's not just Wisconsin. No. So, yep, the world we're living in.
I enticed a new family into Glendale, and then that's gonna be a new student at Glen Hills for you.
That's awesome.
I'm moving in
That's
2
awesome.
weeks.
Yeah, it's never like really, it's like, there's like a weird thing that happened in this last like part of summer where like that's where. Like this, you have leases that are starting and things like that,
Yeah.
and people are starting to move in, it's just.
Yeah.
Things can shift a little bit at this time, so I always feel like it's a little up in the air right away,
Yeah.
like until it's settled.
Okay, yeah, being on the board changes how we view neighbors, right? New neighbors move down the street from us, I'm like, oh, they have a baby. Oh, yeah, more years. I better start working on it now. Wear my
We have
t-shirts.
that welcome to GRH onesie, right?
Yeah, oh my gosh, that's a funny idea.
All right. All right, we got nothing under equitable stewardship.
Oh, did you?
We will continue to be equitable
Yeah, sure.
stewards, though.
Just a couple quick comments on
Yep.
the budget stuff. I'm
Yep.
guessing you're aware, but looks. Seems to me like the personal property tax aid got moved under the levy limit.
Got it.
So,
Yep.
That's $200,000 less of spendable money and $200,000 of essentially property tax relief, so.
Yep.
Just another reason why if I was the board, I would levy additional into Fund 80 to cover the expected expenses down the line, since. There's any year that you could do that and wouldn't really. Show if there's anything noticeable to the taxpayer, it would be this year in addition to the. Almost 3 million in essentially property tax relief we'll be getting from less levy in Fund 10.
Right.
Then. I don't think any of you are particularly as interested in this as I am, but the Wisconsin Department of Revenue released their preliminary equalized values for. Various communities, so if you wanna take a look at. Glendale-River Hills and essentially what's gonna happen for the Nicolay levy. That's out there, and
Right. How did we do? We grow in value alone?
so relative to other places, Fox Point's valuation went down 2%, and that was absorbed by everywhere else. Which they got big bump in our year at least, so.
Interesting.
And we were down 2% last year in Glendale.
Okay.
And so that also was one of the contributing factors to the predictions around the cost of the referendum to taxpayers,
Right,
right? So
right.
like that fluctuation on evaluation can really make a difference.
Right. Okay, thank you. Board preview and planning, ramping up for the new school year.
Yeah, there's some exciting things starting to happen. New teacher welcome week is gonna be August 19th through the 21st. So we will be welcoming teachers over the 3-day period. On 8/19, we're having the district welcome will be at 8 AM. If any of you are available and interested in stopping by. Also on the 19th, we're doing a pizza luncheon at Glen Hills, and so if you're interested in coming to the pizza luncheon, you may do that. I know in years past, we've done a combined work with the district. We are not going that route this year with our partner
They're
districts.
just partner school, okay.
Yeah, our partner schools are not gonna be meeting together. Largely, I think, because of some of the feedback we got from new teachers is that day felt a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
And out of the activities that we did in order to induct people, all 4 districts are getting that feedback.
Yeah,
So we
it's
just.
overwhelming as a board member, because I'm like,
Mhm.
you know, people from different districts,
Yeah.
then new people in your district, it's a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah,
So
so
it's always good.
we're gonna kind of tailor it back a little bit. And then on 8/25 is when we welcome back our entire staff. Our district launch will be at Glen Hills at 10 AM. Again, feedback we've gotten is like coming back and having everybody in the district in one space can be overwhelming, so they're gonna start in the buildings this year and then we'll come together. And we'll collect feedback and see how that works for people, right? Cause it is a lot to just like. Feel like it's full on out of summer.
So the 8/19 is new teachers.
Yep,
Okay.
that's just any new professional staff that are coming into our district, yeah.
Would you like one or more board members there?
If you'd like to come and welcome
happy
them, that
to.
would be fantastic if you're
I'm-
available.
You know, I go, well, I'll try to be less woo. Be happy to, I like coming to welcomes. I like welcoming people. So if you want
Yeah.
them there and you don't mind.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to. I could come to both if you want, the 19th and the 25th, or one, or wherever you want me.
I would say too, like having all of our staff here, I think if you could make it, that'd be great on the 25th, I think it's important.
I can
10
make it on the 19th, the 25th, weirdly, I'm expected to be in my own district.
I figured you might be,
I
yeah,
will plan on both dates. So anyone else, should this be?
I won't know, but I mean,
Okay.
I would like to.
Maybe notify a potential quorum,
okay,
notice of potential quorum.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
yeah.
Oh, and I think I think I understand, but I'm just wondering, like, one of the things that I've heard from Parkway staff at different points has been that they're always expected to come here and Glen Hill staff are never asked to come to Parkway. And has there been consideration of having district gatherings at Parkway, or is there parking limitations or anything?
There's not
You
parking
meet in the
limitations.
gym.
The only places to meet that would be large enough for us to meet in
Right.
would be the gym,
Yeah,
and there's no air conditioning.
Okay, I'm just saying.
It's
like,
just that time of year. And
Yeah.
I mean, I will say that oftentimes, like, in terms of having space to break out and stuff like that, and I don't know that. There's two things that like come to mind with that is understood. And like, we wanna make sure that we're giving people in other buildings, and I think there are moments where when we do go over to the other building. It's really like logistics and space, air conditioning has been a huge factor. The other component of it is at the end of the day, if we're doing anything at the end of the day, they get out earlier than we do. So to not keep people longer, we have them come here.
Sure.
It's like it almost feels like a logistical thing, but I certainly can be cognizant of that and look for opportunities where it does make sense and we may have smaller meeting spaces.
Or maybe ask for feedback again, right?
Yeah.
Because those feelings might change based on shifting
Yeah,
staffing and things like that, but it was interesting feedback that I received. When I first came on board and I was like,
yeah,
I'm guessing it's.
We've
space,
also-
air conditioning.
right. We've also had years where Parkway was supposed to be as their own staff there and they've come here because there is no air conditioning.
Yeah.
It's too-
Right.
So I don't know if I wanna put almost 200 people in a space with no.
And I didn't mean for like now, I
Yeah.
meant like
Yeah,
in general,
yeah,
because everybody
yeah.
centralized.
Yeah, no, I think that's good feedback. So, the Cape and by the way, I will also add that in years past, the typical launch at the start of the school year is not the first day, but the second day of teachers coming back. We work with our partner districts. And every partner district would come here with all of their staff and we would all be in the space.
Yeah.
We are not doing it this year and part of it is due to the Act 20. They have more training to do in their districts around Act 20 or a little bit ahead. Which is, we'll have other opportunities to partner with them. But that we've decided that initial timing is not gonna work for us this year.
Do you think I could get a list of all the new hires so I can write them little cards? I know it's a lot. I tried to retain it, but, and I have it all written down, but I know some of them we approved, but they didn't count.
I do have a list of our staffing onboarding and offboarding sheet. It's been some rapid changes that have happened.
Yeah.
Last minute where I'm like,
Not
I feel
urgent.
like I'm gonna tell you and then I'm gonna have to take it back.
I'm practicing being a card writer. We talked about this, so
Yeah.
I do wanna welcome, maybe other people do too.
Yeah.
But if we could get a list, that would be fantastic.
All right, on 8/26 at 6 p.m. in the library is the K4 family meeting for Parkway families, so new to the district families will be at that meeting. And then on 8/27, open house will be held at Glen Hills from 4 to 8, and that is where we will orientate students to lockers. Their classrooms, their teachers, dropping off supplies. I'm hoping we have pictures. Somebody mentioned something about pictures may need to be moved, so I don't wanna confirm that right now. And then 8/28 would be the open house for Parkway. From 4 to 8.
I'm thinking it would be great if we had a board table
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
a flyer or a sheet with our board meeting dates and
Yeah.
if one or two of us could staff throughout the afternoon if it's possible.
Yeah.
I think I can mostly be available, but yeah. Anybody wanna make a flyer or?
Sure.
We could try to do it together.
Yeah,
Or I could.
I love Canva.
So I think, yeah, but we can talk about, it. Mainly we want board meeting dates and like some sort of warm welcome, right? What do you think?
I think that would be great. I think board meeting dates, like warm welcome, like maybe some research. I think maybe just even
Picture.
A group picture.
I knew this was gonna circle back to them.
I knew it. I was ready to
ask you.
I wondered what that look on your face
Yeah.
was like.
I was like, they're gonna come back to the group picture. I also am wondering about too, like even reasons why being engaged and as not only members of our community, but also as families in
Yeah.
board meetings and just board proceedings, even if they can't be here, and how important that is to understanding what's happening in our district.
Right.
Like reasons why to come.
Yeah, maybe it could be a letter. If I have time, I could write a letter and circulate it. We can all sign, although can we do that without coming into, we would have to approve that in our next meeting. To avoid walking quorums,
Or you could just write it.
or I could just write a letter from me.
Yeah.
like a one paragraph welcoming people.
It would be interesting to get feedback from people who regularly participate in our meetings, what they get out of it.
That would be interesting. We're ahead of schedule.
We're
We have time to invite that sort of feedback.
Feel free to maybe reach out, just
Putting them on the spot.
share, like, not right now, but I mean, that would, I think, that could be meaningful, legitimate.
I'm just trying to keep us honest.
We could do like little quote boxes. These meetings are the best way I've ever spent my Wednesday evenings. Wayne Martin.
Would be the person to be contacted in case there was a member of the public that regularly attended that wanted to go.
Anna or me.
The review.
We didn't say review. We should apply a review. I would be happy to see that.
I think she said, tell us what you like. Because
I'm always wrong. Feedback,
Open to
any of
feedback
us, all of
anytime.
us, whoever you feel comfortable
Yeah,
on, that's our model.
Yeah.
There's no hierarchy.
All right.
But thank you for asking.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll meet again before the open houses.
Yeah.
So we can sort that.
I have a question.
Yes.
Cheryl Peters, 2315 West Good Hope Road, Glendale Heights. If we have a color run on August 28th for our kids, do you take pictures on it?
This is gonna be the most epic yearbook.
Change the date of the color run.
Are they just gonna be covered in? paper?
That would be amazing.
Let me-
retake day.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we found is when we do them in the beginning of the year, we end up with kind of like a weird, like we end up with a weird overlap and having to do a lot of work. I need to check with the building, but I will follow up with you now.
Okay, yeah.
Let me check with Miss Holloway and Miss Bruno and just double check, cause I know it was like, I know there was like timeout, there's gonna be an issue, they wanna move the date that came through, and I just wanna make sure I'm honoring whatever decision they made at the building levels, so. I will check into that and email you tomorrow. I love your thoughtful question. I'm like, I could just go over there with like the camera crew and we could just, yeah, like.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Snow cone.
Mhm. I think everybody wants to do fun things that week. The other thing I wanted to point out to you, and it is not, I didn't type it in here, but another event I just wanna point out is, I received information from the mayor's office in Glendale, and it looks like they are also hosting a community picnic that's happening on Saturday, August 15th, which I believe is next weekend.
August 16th.
15th. Oh, it should be the 16th, yeah, the 16th, and it is from 4 to 9 p.m. and it's gonna be at the municipal campus, which is around Parkway, so they've asked if they could use, you know, some of our space to help facilitate that, but it sounds like there'll be food trucks, kids games, and a mini touch a truck or something like that, so just a really good event again to, you know, be in the community and see families, so I wanted to make sure I pass that along.
I've been thinking about ordering as a gift, like little wood name tags for us, for each of us. Do you like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we should do that regardless of how we source it. We
Okay.
we need more times.
Let me put on my short list, get name tags. Does that work?
Can I pick like a speech?
Yes, Danielle, if you need to. I will put the stage name. What would it be?
I don't know, I haven't gotten that far, just.
You know what it would be. El Jefe. Queso Grande, we can come up. All right, I hate to tell you, but we are 15 minutes ahead of schedule and we are on our final agenda item.
Move to adjourn in 15 minutes. I'm just kidding.
Karen Cronwell has moved to adjourn. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
Good meeting, good timing, look at that.
Yeah,
That was
Well done,
nice.
everyone.
Very good.
Happy end of summer. Good luck getting through the next few weeks, Anna and everyone. Yeah, in our school districts. I know it's a busy time. All in favor? Aye. Meeting is adjourned. Well done.